Every freelancer knows this feeling. You finish a project, the client is happy, you are happy, you send the invoice, you get paid, and then your calendar is empty. No emails, no stand-ups, no calls, no deadlines. And it feels great until it doesn't. What if that's it? What if I don't get another client? But girl, boy, whatever you identify as, I've been freelancing for 6 years and it still happens. Sometimes it's nothing to do with you. It doesn't matter if you have a lead funnel, if you have good marketing, if you have good word of mouth, whatever. Sometimes it's just the market fluctuating. I have phases where I'm like, shoot, I need a project. But no matter how many times I felt like this, there has always been another client. And yes, in an ideal world, we'll have a wait list, we'll have people that can start with us right away, but that doesn't always happen. It might depend on your industry, but for me as a UX designer, they want their projects designed and delivered now. If you're only available in 3 months, they're not going to start development time for another 3 months until you're free. So a wait list doesn't always work. But yes, having downtime as a freelancer can be uncomfortable, can be very irritable, but downtime isn't the end of the world. It's all about how you see it and your perception of it, because it's actually super nice if you expect it to be busy and you have all this free time. And it's a great time to not just work in your business all the time, but to finally work on your business. Because especially when we're busy with projects, we end up not having the time to work on our business. We just work so much in executing everything and doing like all of these tasks that we don't get the systems in place that would actually make it easier for us to do the tasks, and client management, invoicing systems, and all of these kind of things that are on top of actually just doing the tasks. So in this episode, I talk about the 3 things I do when I have downtime. First of all, having downtime is just part of freelancing. It doesn't mean you're a failure. Don't see it this way. So let's reframe how you think about downtime. Sometimes it's just a cycle. It's how the year works. Think of freelancing and your business like a mall. Of course, in summer, people are out, they're by the pool. But on Black Friday, Christmas time, everyone's in the mall. It's crazy busy. So as a freelancer, it's pretty much the same. You will have phases where you get more requests and more projects coming your way than you can handle. And you will have phases where it's absolutely dead silent. And it's very tricky to balance those, because often, like in a mall, there's not so much that you can influence. Yes, you can have certain discounts, you can have certain events in the mall to attract people, but there are so many things out of your control. So let's just make the best out of the ebbs and flows as a freelancer. And the longer you've provided your services as a freelancer, the more you'll realize when the phases usually are where things are picking up. For me personally, as a UX designer, and I guess for many people that work online, it's usually at the beginning of the year where people are reviewing their budgets, etc. Sometimes you get an email around December, but that's usually before people are getting ready for Christmas and go on holiday. That's when it starts to add up a little bit, because people are reviewing the budgets for Q1 the next year. So in January, usually that's when it picks up. January, February is when you get a lot of requests, because people have budgets, people have the money they want to spend. And that's when they're looking for people who could start as soon as they're ready. Then over summer, again, you have a lot of people going on holiday. Many projects might pause because the developers are going away. Some important stakeholders are going away. So usually summer can be a little bit quiet. And it's also a good time to take leave, planned leave. And then sometimes around October, November time, people want to spend the remaining budget that they haven't spent yet. So they're just looking for someone to keep that, because it's a little bit funny. Many companies, especially corporate ones, if they have a set of budget that they can spend on freelancers and they haven't used it up, and then they will review it in the next year of if the budget was too much or too low. They're trying to spend that budget because they want to keep that high budget for freelancers for the next year. So you might find a phase of like very odd project requests, because they're not really sure what it is that you could help them with, but they just want to spend that money on freelancers. So then things are picking up again before they go quiet on Christmas and then pick again for the year. But again, every industry is a little bit different. So the longer you're in the game, the more you'll realize the ebbs and flows of your industry. So if you know your ebbs and flows, it's good to plan with that. Take holidays when you usually have less work. Take a planned holiday. Like, that's another topic for a different episode, but often freelancers, we are like, oh, I'm just going to take off whenever I have downtime. And then the downtime happens and you're so not prepared for it, and you're like, you didn't set up maybe your apartment for sublet, you haven't packed your suitcase, you wouldn't know where to go because it's a random time of the year, and maybe it's not really time for a summer holiday, it's not really like, you're not prepared, and it's not nice. Like, unless you're very spontaneous, you just book a ticket to wherever. But I'm a person, I like to plan. I like to have a little bit of structure. I have to have a bit of an idea. So I like to plan at least 1-2 months in advance if I go somewhere. Also to make sure that I have a good accommodation where I don't have to hop around all the time. So if you know the phases of your business, definitely plan your holiday there as well. But in case you haven't figured out the ebbs and flows of your industry yet, and you find yourself in some downtime, see it as an opportunity to do all the things that you always wanted to improve in your business, but didn't have the time to. Unlike me, I tend to use the time to procrastinate and do checklists and think about what it could improve rather than actually improving it. And then by the time I actually planned, okay, these are the things that need the most work on my business, then I get another client request and then I didn't have the chance to improve those things. So don't take the time to procrastinate. Take the time to actually improve things and work on your systems. If you're just starting as a freelancer, you might find yourself having more downtime than you'd like, because you probably just focus on getting one client at a time rather than how you can manage several clients at once. So you'll end up in this hamster wheel of working, project, and then project ends, and then you have to find a client, you're in a hamster wheel of doing that, and then maybe oh, I have to update my portfolio, I have to send a better CV, blah, blah, blah. You're constantly hustling, even though you don't have a client. And there's nothing wrong with that if that's what you like to do, because I also really like working on my business. I like feeling productive. That might be some sort of childhood trauma where I feel like my productivity is tied to my worth. That's something that I need to figure out. But overall, I actually like working on things. This episode isn't about how you can avoid the downtime. It's what you can do when it happens. So here are the 3 things that I do in my downtime as someone who has been freelancing for 6 years now. First, I look at maintaining my business. These can be all sorts of things. And one of the first things that popped to my mind is updating my portfolio, which I haven't done in ages. I still have projects from 2 or 3 years ago, and I should definitely get some of my latest project in there, because I worked for Greg's, I worked for AstraZeneca, I worked for really incredible brands, and I had some really cool projects and AI databases and all this kind of stuff, but it's not reflected in my portfolio. Because now when someone reaches out to me, or if I find a gig online that I find interesting, I send them a portfolio that reflects my experience from 3 years ago, which isn't ideal. So in the downtime, you can work on your portfolio. And it's not just about going through your old case studies and making them better or the description, but to actually get the good case studies, the good projects that you worked on into your portfolio in the first place, or somewhere out there in the world. It will probably be easier to just do a LinkedIn post of the project that you just finished, and now that it's finished that you have downtime, don't necessarily mention it, but people will probably get the hint that, oh, you finished the project. You're probably available for something else again. So just do this post, talk about it, talk what you did, how you helped the project moving along, what your contribution was, and how that might help anyone who might see that post. And you never know, maybe you'll get a few leads from that LinkedIn post alone. So that's the first thing you can do. Just talk about the project that you finished. And if it's a project you're proud of, or if there's anything worth mentioning that you think would be worth it in your portfolio, work on that portfolio case study. Then I do all the other business maintenance boring things. I send the invoice, of course. If there are any invoices that I need to send. If there is any tax returns I have to do, I usually really keep it to the very, very last date. If there's a deadline, I feel why should I do it before if I can do it then, if I have all this time? Which isn't the best way to work with things sometimes, but with taxes, I think I push it off as much as I can because I just don't like doing it. So if you have some downtime, do it now, and it's out of the way, and you don't have to think about it for the rest of the year anymore. I'm saying this to myself as much as I'm saying this to you. Maintaining your business also means doing something like updating your folder structure or finding a folder structure that works for you. Maybe it be your G Drive, may it be something that you store on your Mac, any kind of things that you need to easily find. And yes, you can always have a search function, but if all your projects are structured the same way, you always know, okay, if I go into project A, I'll find the contract here. If I go into project B, I'll find the contract in the same place, things like that. That is very useful in the long run. It's very daunting to set those things up, but for anything that you have a system, if you have a structure there, that's going to save you so much time in the long run. You can also look into automating things. Are there any software, platform, SaaS products where you can automate invoices, where you can automate reminder emails? Maybe you can work on your client on and offboarding. What are the systems that you feel in your business they need a little bit more love and nurturing and guidance? Personally, I feel my onboarding process isn't too bad, but my offboarding process isn't that great. I legit just send them a feedback form, and if they fill it in well. I asked them to use the testimonial, and that's pretty much it, which I think is a little bit more than most freelancers have. But those are the things that you can improve. How can you make the experience for your clients better so that they refer you and that they come back to you when they have another project? Another good thing that you can do for business maintenance, which might also be a good lead generator, is to reach out to the project that you just finished and the colleagues that you work for to get a testimonial. So this testimonial you can then put on your case study. You can also include in the post that you're going to do about finishing a project if you didn't sign an NDA. And it's always good to have a library of testimonials because it's like a review. A testimonial is basically a review of yours. And what are the things that we use to see if a restaurant is good, to see if a hotel is good, where we should go on holidays? It's what other people are telling us and if we trust them. So if you have someone that worked with you, say, I loved working with Lizzie. I really enjoyed that she's so organized and she's structured and X, Y, and Z. Of course, the person reading that is going to keep you in mind for things, or at least they will check out your profile. Another business maintenance thing, and it's a very boring task, but it's also useful and can save you a ton of money, is just to review your subscriptions. And you might pay for subscriptions if you don't even remember signing up anymore. Like I pay for Calendly, and I've for a while been using the free Google version for clients to set up calls. And I've been thinking of maybe if I should move away from Calendly, maybe if there's different options, and I still haven't done it. And now they charged me again for the next year. Maybe you don't need the paid version of Slack anymore because you don't communicate with that many people and you don't mind if the messages from 3 months ago are going to be deleted. Things like that. It's not going to make you rich, but it's going to save you some money. And it's always good to go through all the subscriptions that you have and see which ones do you actually need, which ones are going to be renewed. If they're going to be renewed, is it going to be for a full year? Do you need it for the full year or do you just need it for a couple of months? And it can be very daunting to have all of those subscriptions and to have to remember them. Actually, I don't know if you remember the episode I recorded with Carl Prinsloo. He has a software tool for exactly that. It's app.softwaresubscriptions.com. And yes, it's a little bit of a daunting task to collect all of your tools and all of the subscriptions that you have. But you put it in there, you say how much you pay, if you pay monthly, annually, etc. And then it basically tells you when the next payment is due. It gives you an overview of how much there is to pay. You can separate it if you have different businesses. So for example, I separate it with my company account, and my limited company is called Machi's Playdrugs. I would probably name it a little bit differently nowadays, but I mean, it's just a limited company. It doesn't really matter. Or with the Freelance Blueprint, so I have that separate as well. And then you can also add your private subscriptions, like if you have a Netflix subscription, Spotify, things like that. I log in there every couple of months or whenever I have downtime to check, do I actually still need all of those? And it's things like my insurances. Also, sometimes it's interesting to see if I haven't logged in a while that actually my web hosting has gone from $20 to $35. So maybe it's worth it finding a different provider, because I remember when I created my website 5-6 years ago, I think I paid $7 a month for it. So that's quite a steep increase. So it's always good to keep track of those things. And maybe, Carl, if you're watching this, it would be good to see if the fee actually changed. Yeah, maybe we'll have a call on like feature improvements. I'll add a link in the description of this podcast so you can see the subscription tool. All right, the second thing I do when I have downtime is basically marketing and networking. And some of that can already be done with the things I mentioned before, where you basically do a post on LinkedIn, or when you reach out to your past clients to collect testimonials. That's kind of outreach and it's nurturing your relationships that you have with clients. But just finishing a project is actually a really good way and a good excuse to reach out to past clients. It's a good conversation starter without feeling like, oh, I want to sell you something. Because you can just tell them, oh, I just worked on this project. It reminded me a lot about what happened to our project, or there was a situation within the team where the stakeholders were discussing X, Y, Z, and it was similar to our situation, whereas they chose that option while we chose this option, things like that, and just share the learnings or share something that would be relevant for them. You mentioning that you just finished a project gives them the hint of like, you're available again for gigs. So it allows them to take that hint and talk to you about this. Or maybe they just ignore your email, or they say something like, oh, congrats on finishing this project, blah, blah, blah. Either way, it's a good way to keep you in your clients' minds, even if it was a past client, especially actually if it was a past client, without feeling salesy. Also, of course, only share things that you didn't sign NDAs for. If you reached out to some clients in the past about some testimonials, etc., you can always reach out again. You can say, oh, I just finished this project. Now I'm trying to put it into my portfolio, which made me realize that I don't have a testimonial for the project that we worked on, if you would be willing to leave a testimonial for that. You can make it very easy for your client. You can write some sort of phrase for them up front. You can give them some ChatGPT prompts, whatever it is. Make it as easy for them as possible to leave a testimonial for you. Another way I like to use the downtime is to get into in real life networking events. This might be something like joining some other freelancers who organize a group co-working session, because it's not just networking with potential clients. It's really good to network with potential colleagues. You might have a skill that is complementary to others. So there might be a software developer. For example, I'm a UX designer. The projects I work on, they usually need a project manager and a developer, bare minimum. Ideally, they would have a copywriter on it, but unfortunately, that doesn't always happen. Then there might be some SEO if it's a website, not if it's a mobile app, but if it's a website, there would be some SEO. And if it's a very, very new idea, there might be a brand designer. So these are the type of colleagues that I have. And yes, as a freelancer, you don't really necessarily have colleagues, but these are kind of your peers. So if you manage to network with them, as soon as one of them has a project and that project has a developer, but they don't have the UX designer, or they're in the branding stage, but they need someone to make that brand do well on digital, not just on print, for example. Those are really good things to network, because if people know you personally, they're more likely to work with you, because they know if they work together with you side by side, even if you haven't worked on the same project, they see your work ethic, they see what you deliver, and you can talk about the project, etc. So that's a great way. So it doesn't always have to be networking, going to events where you find potential clients. It's also about networking where you can find your potential colleagues. But of course, the networking events where you can find your potential clients, even better. And depending where you're from, depending on where you're based, there might be a ton of them. In London, I feel like there was one business and tech event almost every single week. No matter if it's like a huge tech event where you actually have to buy a ticket to go and see some talks, or maybe it's just something someone organizes on Meetup. You never know who the person is you're talking to. Maybe they are going to be in 5 years from now a SaaS product owner. Maybe they are someone who wrote a book, and then you can recommend your copywriting friends, whatever it is. And even if they don't hire you right now, it doesn't mean they won't hire you in the future. And especially nowadays where everything is online, everything is AI generated and so impersonal, it's also so refreshing to go to in real life networking events. The third thing that I really like doing in my downtime is improve my skills. One of the best ways to use the downtime is to upskill. Any skill you learn cannot be taken away from you anymore. And it can be any skill. It doesn't have to be part of your main offer. For example, as a UX designer, I know Figma pretty well, but I could improve my knowledge on Framer. Yes, I built a website on Framer before, but do I want to offer it as a service? I'm not really sure. Maybe I can work on more AI tools, like there are like Pilot. There are so many like AI UX tools. Maybe I can play around with them and see how that might improve my workflow. Or instead of learning a new software, I can also learn something like communication skills. One of the best things I've done for myself and invested in is a communications course, because that doesn't just improve how you talk with your clients and it doesn't just improve your business. It also really helps in your personal and private life. You can use your voice in so many different ways. And I don't know if you notice a difference between the first episode and this one now. I hope that you might have found a few pieces of improvements over time. And yes, one is practice, because I'm used to talking to the camera now. I upgraded my camera. Like before I used my laptop webcam. So of course, like that's hopefully a bit of an improvement, but I'm talking about the improvement in my communication skills. Did something change in the type of questions I asked? Did something change in the way I listen? That's also part of communication, because even when you don't talk, you talk. It's your body language as well. So that course was so insightful for me, and I have to remind myself every now and then of the things that I learned, but it's one of the best things that I invested money in. And if you're interested in doing a communication course, the one that I did was from Bin Jiang. I'm not sure how to pronounce his last name, but you've probably seen him across on social media before, because he has a huge following and this guy knows what he's doing. He's really, really good with communicating, obviously, and teaching it. It's one thing being good at something, it's another thing being good at teaching people how to do it. And I didn't just do the course, I did this whole masterclass. It was like a 1 week online thing where you are online on this Zoom call with hundreds of other people for 2-3 hours a day. And initially I felt like, oh, this is going to be so daunting. But actually the time flew by. It felt like this 3 hours was like half an hour. It was a lot of fun. And you actually work on improving your skills while you're at it. You don't just consume the content and the information, you actually learn it and apply it, which was amazing. So I highly recommend that course. If you want to check it out, I'll add the link in the description. Again, because it's a skill that nobody can take away from you. And it's not just good for your career, it's also good for your personal life. So definitely check it out. If you don't want to learn a new skill because maybe your brain is fried from your past project, or you feel like you're pretty up to speed with things because you upskill as you do things, another thing you can do is just to keep an eye on the industry. What's happening right now? For example, now AI is everywhere. What is happening? Like, how can you use this to an advantage? Is there something that you can use to improve your workflows? Maybe you are niche down to a certain industry. Like, everyone talks about niching, and I'm not a niche down UX designer. I work on apps, I worked on websites, I worked on tablet tools, I worked with startups, I worked with big corporates, I worked for Greg's on their food ordering platform. I worked for global pharma companies to unify their brand identity. I worked with like AI tools that show crazy dashboards for banks so that they can save money, like all types of different things. So maybe my niche is that I'm very flexible, I'm not sure. But if you have a niche, if it's, let's say, for example, you help people in the health industry, maybe you can see what's happening in the health industry. What are the trends? What is a constant through like a long-term trend? Like, for example, sugar is no longer the bad thing. It is body fat or whatever, what's happening in your industry. It's not just the soft skills and hard skills that you can learn for your freelance business. It's also trying to figure out what is happening within your niche. What are the problems your clients are facing? What are the things that are relevant, what's happening in the industry now, where you can then get your expertise to help your future clients with the problems they're facing. And of course, you can just use the downtime to go for a walk, go for a run, and listen to podcasts like this. If you're looking for more podcasts like this, one of my favorite episodes that I recommend to a lot of people is the one with Marcella, because it's about how you can get the cringe out of sales. And it's also about taxes. And taxes is usually pretty boring. So I find it always very mesmerizing when there's a person who is so into numbers and taxes. So that episode would be a good one. Maybe also one of the more recent ones, the one with Ella. I really, really enjoyed that conversation because we talked about so many different things and also about coaching for freelancers. So maybe if you're looking into coaching and you're in fashion, maybe Ella would be a good coach for you. If you're a UX designer and you're looking for coaching, you can check out the description of this podcast, because maybe you don't know, but I offer one-on-one coaching for freelancers as well. So maybe that's also something you can do. Work on your mindset. Get a coach to help you implement things that you haven't managed to implement before. Maybe you're just starting your freelance career and you're listening to this to get information. It's always good to have someone guide you. Just having that confidence, that borrowed confidence from someone else. And that's an episode that I talked to with one of my previous coaches, Cynthia. When you have a coach, you borrow their confidence. So you start to believe in you because they believe in you. You start to believe in yourself more. And you're going to achieve your goals faster than you would on your own. And other than the communication course, some of the coaching programs I did, not all of them, but some of them were really, really worth the money. So it's hard to find the right coach. I'm not going to say I'm the best coach for you because every person is different. Everyone has different goals. But look at the different options, see who you click with, see who you resonate with and whose style you like, and also what feels more natural to you, and then go from there. Maybe taking on coaching to help you work on your business is the right thing to do in your downtime. All right, those are the things that I usually do when I have downtime. And sometimes I just go on a spontaneous trip. It doesn't always happen because, again, like I told you before, I like to know when I'm going to go on a trip to be a little bit more prepared. But that's always something you can do. I mean, that's the whole point of freelancing, that you can go out on a random Tuesday, that you can take a random trip whenever you want. So enjoy life. Life isn't always about work. Your work should support your life, not the other way around. So go outside, create some good, healthy habits, get into a new routine, call your mom, buy some new notebooks and post-its, do whatever makes fun, like pick up a new hobby, start painting, whatever it is, or do absolutely nothing. Whatever it is that you feel like, take advantage of this downtime. Because I promise you, there will be a time where you wish it would be this quiet because you're going to be swamped with client work. It will happen. And to wrap up this episode, Here are the things that I wish someone would have told my younger self when I was experiencing my first downtime as a freelancer. Don't worry, there's always going to be another client. You'll be fine. Trust that more work will come. Downtime is a great time to reflect on what works and what doesn't, and figure out how you can get more of the things that work and reduce the things that don't work. Get clear on what you want to achieve with your freelance business. Why are you doing the things that you're doing? And also reflect on it. You've done it. You've managed to get that client. You managed to deliver that project. You managed to get paid for it. That's a huge step. That's something that at the beginning of your career, you would never have thought that you would be able to do that. You've done it once. You've done it again. You can do it again and again and again. Look at what went well with your previous client and what didn't go so well. And learn from that. Take notes. Keep reminders of what you can do to improve. And finally, enjoy this time, because trust me, it's gonna get busy. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. I really hope you found this useful. If you did find it useful, share it with anyone who you also think can benefit from listening. And also, don't forget to hit subscribe and follow the podcast. That's all from me, and I can't wait to have you join again next week. Bye.